Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome back, everyone. I'm here today with Karen Tyrell, and she is a dementia consultant. She has been a key person in creating a certification for people who actually work with people with dementia in different homes and everything. And she's here to talk to us today about things that you should know, that because our parents are locked away, and they're just going to be okay because people like Karen are taking care of them and they're taking the right steps to make sure that our loved ones are safe. So, Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
Yeah, this is your third or fourth time that we've talked officially as an interview, right?
Yes, it's always a pleasure to allow me to share my passion with your readers, your listeners.
Yeah. And I will say you've even written the book. Actually, you've written 2 books, haven't you?
Yes, so I published a book on cracking the dementia code, which is around creative solutions to cope with the changed behaviors we often see from people with dementia. And I also published, with the help of an illustrator, a adult coloring, which is like a therapeutic activity book for people in earlier to moderate stages of dementia.
Wow.
Which is actually coming in quite handy around this time. People are really keen to have this book. There was a home actually in Ontario that ordered 40 copies for their residents to stay active while they're in the isolation. So it was quite an honor to support that care home.
Okay, so how important is it that that our parents right now stay active?
Well, staying active for anyone is very important right now for our physical and our mental health. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, there are people who are needing care and are in a care home at this time of their life. And because of this pandemic that is going on in the world, things are on lockdown. We are not able to go visit these individuals in these care homes, which does put a huge amount of emotions for both the families as well as that individual that's living in the care home. And when it comes to individuals affected by dementia, it adds another layer of complexity because that person may not fully understand. They may continually forget why they have to stay in their rooms or why they can't have their families visit. And they're continuously asking the staff or asking others, why isn't my daughter coming today? How come my daughter's not visiting? And that adds a lot of anxiety, a lot of confusion for these individuals. So it's not an easy time, and it's so sad to watch the families. Actually, I say watch because myself and my husband were quarantined. We were isolating ourselves purposely for over 14 days when this all started, but then realized we are able bodies, and there is a retirement home that reached out to me to say they were short-staffed, and if I knew of anybody to help in either maintenance or just regular day-to-day work. So I volunteered myself and my husband, and now we are going in. And from my experiences supporting this retirement community, I am seeing families come to the window and watching them with tears and moments of joy just to see their loved one again. And on the other side, listening to that person, whether they have dementia or not. Some people do have symptoms of dementia. Mm-hmm. Inside this retirement home, but some do not. And just watching them go through that interaction between the glass is quite heartbreaking for me. So it does bring a little moment of joy, but it brings in that sadness, that the feelings that I'm often hearing when I do talk with families over the phone or through Zoom is that helplessness. that feeling of helplessness. They just can't do anything to get in there, to give them that hug, give them the comfort, to give them the reassurance. And so that's making it very hard for a lot of families right now. And of course, sad times when, let's say, for example, holidays or birthdays, like Easter just passed. A lot of families have their regular traditions, and they couldn't go through those regular traditions this year, which made it really sad for a lot of people. So a lot of emotions, frustration too, that they can't see the person or check in on them as regularly as they would like to. But there are some families getting creative, and what I'm noticing is that those that did have access to the technology and the Wi-Fi, whatever building they are living in, are having better connections right now because there is a tablet or phone in the room that people can do things like FaceTime or messenger video, WhatsApp, Zoom, conferencing, Skype, those types of things. So they are able to see their loved one through that technology, or the good old-fashioned phone. If the phone is in the room, they can still have those conversations. But unfortunately, with somebody that has more advanced stages of dementia, they may not know how to work the phone, how to call out, or even how to pick up the phone if there is a phone in their room. So therefore, those families are struggling the most to maintain that contact.
Yeah. No, I know you described dementia like an onion that takes our minds back through time, sort of thing. With the cell phone being what it is these days, where you slide, you use a thumb to open it up and everything, in comparison to when we were kids. You had to pick the phone. When you picked the phone up, after it rang, there was somebody there, and
right.
It's so somebody who has gone through so many stages of dementia, I can see not being able to use a cell phone. It may not stick in their head, right?
Correct. It may be more difficult to understand what this device is because it's not newer to them. And as you mentioned, I do use the memory onion analogy, where a person that is affected by a progressive type of dementia, such as Alzheimer's disease, often their memories of further back or are more strong as opposed to what happened just yesterday. So if you picture a big onion, I tell people sometimes people go backwards in that onion to years earlier in their life, but cannot grab those memories that happened yesterday or last week. And eventually a person has only the memories of when they were young, and they do ask for their parents, where are my parents, even though they are passed away, and they do forget their family members or who their husband is. They may not recognize their own husband with gray hair, but remembers him with the dark-colored hair when they first got married. So those types of things. And so, yes, technology can be a challenge for some people. Actually, the sad part is even the good old-fashioned telephone, if it is in the room, there are cases where people with advanced dementia develop what's known as apraxia. And apraxia is just a condition where they don't know how to use familiar objects anymore. So whether it's working a microwave or working, how to put coffee in a coffee machine, it goes down to not knowing how to pick up a phone and dial out, or even in worse, in later stages, the person doesn't know how to use their own toothbrush, what to do with it. So apraxia is a very difficult condition that caregivers have to deal with to support a person through their day-to-day. So these individuals would benefit from having support to utilize these instruments, these devices, to maintain that connection with family. But we're also in a situation where there are a lot of homes that are running short-staffed, because if a person is sick within their building, they can't come in. So then we lose that body of that staff member to help out. And also with the regulations that came down several weeks back, where if a person is employed in two different homes, They need to pick one and not to be traveling to both homes to maintain their full-time work. So instead of half-time at one and half-time at another, they have to stay half-time at the one. So therefore, the other home is now left short-staffed. And this is the case of this retirement home that my husband and I are helping out in.
Yeah.
So short-staffed, plus there's also situations where there's new regulations within that home. And for example, the one that I'm supporting, there never was a position for somebody to stand at the door and take temperatures of all the staff, stopping visitors from coming in, accepting parcels, but having to disinfect those parcels if they come through the door. And I'll go on about those parcels in just a moment, but that's a new position, as well as having to take temperatures of each resident, sometimes twice a day, just to make sure there's nobody starting with symptoms of the COVID and trying to catch that right away.
Right.
So those are new positions that are required. Not allowing more than 2 people inside an elevator to keep the social distancing. People in care homes may forget this. So having an elevator monitor be in controlling the elevator during meal times. So there's a lot more work going on in these homes that there's not enough time or staff to do the one-on-one connection of these devices for families. And so that's making it very frustrating for the families, because I don't think they realize the full capacity of what's going on inside that building, what might be happening. Each home will have its own challenges. Mm-hmm. Some are keeping the residents in their own rooms. Others are inviting them to come down for meals, but only one person per table. So in the case of the place that I'm supporting, there's tablecloths for every table, and when that one resident finishes their meal, they have to go out to the elevator, and one at a time goes in the elevator with the person who's manning the elevator, and then the table gets changed completely over for the next person. So there's a lot more additional work, less socializing even inside for some of these residents, because they're eating alone. But the staff who are working the dining room, running off their feet, trying to help everyone, are doing their best to keep people smiling, keeping them feeling good. But it's not the same as what the family members can do.
Well, yeah, that's very true. Now, last year, one of the homes that we did, my wife and I, we delivered to, They had the Norwalk virus, and within a matter of hours, now it's a little more extreme than COVID in some directions, within a matter of hours, the virus had spread to 80% of the people in this place. So I'm bringing this up because I want people who are listening to understand how important it is to make sure that the social distancing stays in place even within the inside of the homes, because it can spread like crazy. Just one person has it, and then wham, the whole population of the home or the facility has it now, right?
Yes, and that's what's happening, unfortunately, especially in the care home setting, where the frontline care staff need to go to each room to help support the resident with their daily care tasks, whether it's using the toilet, getting changed, getting dressed, getting in and out of bed. Germs can spread from room to room that way if that staff member isn't careful with, hand washing, using the proper protective equipment, and there's also staff that have to go around now disinfecting all surfaces, handles, railings, as much as possible, because if we do miss a person who is just starting to show symptoms and has touched 3 different things on that surface, and we miss that, germs can easily spread to the care staff, who then can spread it to others. So some measures people are feeling are a little extreme. In other cases, when I was talking to some of the cognitively well residents in this home, they are saying we're so appreciative, because there has not been an outbreak in that home, that of all the extra work and precautions that the home is taking To have to go through this, it's a lot of patience that's required, a lot of understanding at this time, which can be hard to do, especially if people have poor reasoning skills, poor memory, poor thinking abilities, as of those who are diagnosed with dementia, because they have those symptoms. So it's very difficult to explain to them. I had one experience where a lady came to the dining room. She says, "I'm waiting for my friend. I'm going to stand here. I want to wait for my friend to sit with my friend," which she used to do prior to the COVID-19 situation. And now it took a lot of convincing to encourage her to eat alone. Because of my skills and what I've been teaching over the years, I used a little bit of my therapeutic reasoning technique on this woman, and I basically said to her, "Yep, as soon as I see your friend, I'll have her come to your table." So it got her to at least sit down and start her meal, as a technique to help reassure her, even though unfortunately we weren't able to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
It's a really tricky time right now, and trying to give some ideas to families is what I've been doing through a new Facebook group that was created for the family caregivers. And within this Facebook group, I've been also offering the free Zoom calls where we have the caregivers come together, ask questions, share their concerns, share their stories. And some of the stories I'm hearing is definitely heartbreaking. People are just not understanding. But right about now, I think the support from others who understand, so from caregivers, family caregivers, to connect with other family caregivers right now, because that's going to help them get through. That's going to help them cope better, knowing that they're not alone and that there are other people going through the same challenges, and learning from them what techniques they're using, what are they doing, how are they getting by, which has been a great peer support situation happening within our Facebook group. So I'm happy to share that group if others want to join in. We are doing these weekly calls right now to help everyone. On Thursday evenings as a way to support them and giving them some creative techniques and ideas. And one of them that we shared in our last call is doing our best to keep that person in a positive mood as much as we can if they are connecting over the phone or over a technology, doing what we can not to just talk about the negativity of, "I know you can't sit with your friends in the diner. I know I can't see you, and I'm sad I can't see you either, and I wish I can come see you, and it's so hard right now, this stupid disease," and whatever, complain. It might just maintain that emotional memory a lot longer after the call is ended or the connection is ended, which then will not settle the person well for the rest of their day and maybe a few days. So what I'm really encouraging families to do is to use the time while they're connecting to maybe sing some familiar songs, to maybe rehearse some prayers that they may know that comes easy to them. I feel as though if we do this for that individual, then it will help that individual when they hang up the phone to stay positive and to feel lighter on a happier note. And then the care staff will have an easier time dealing with their mood and their concerns following the call. So it's just a little tip is that maybe start the conversation and go through, "Yes, I know it's not fair. I wish I was there." But then really changing up the conversation to something fun, reminisce about the good old days, get some songs going, some prayers, whatever is going to put that person in a happy mood. So then maybe after the call, that person might have what I remember hearing called an earworm. And maybe they'll start to re-sing that song over and over again afterwards, which will then maybe put other people in the care home in a good mood if they hear them humming that song again. So this is just an idea I'd like to share for families to use during their connection time.
So instead of griping about the restrictions of the virus, do something to share the loving thoughts and everything hey,
Yes,
we should
share
be
the loving
doing.
thoughts. Yeah, share the loving thoughts. We do love you. We care about you and stuff. But move into something more meaningful in a way of, singing a few songs to tap into another part of their brain. Reminiscing about sometimes to laugh together, have some laughter, because singing and laughter, in my opinion, is so powerful. It's like a really, powerful medicine for people affected by dementia that I've seen over the years. And I use those to my, I pull them out of my back pocket every time I can with somebody who looks a little bit concerned, just to put them in a positive mood, because those moods can stick longer. So if a person is in a bad mood, that bad mood may stick longer. But trying to change it up to a positive mood is our goal, because we want that last emotion to stay longer.
That's I had to say that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, and now those families, I just wanted to say that isolation part around items coming into a building, there are rules around families can deliver things, but it needs to go in isolation for 5 days in case there's any virus on that object. So, for example, it's not ideal to send perishable foods in right now, because it might go in a fridge, but it might not be good when it comes out after 5 days, if it's bread or some kind of perishable item. But they do put food in a fridge, but they do have to keep it for the 5 days away from that person. So if a family member is able to send a tablet or something that's easy to use. Now, there are devices out there for seniors that are easy tablets with very little items on it, so they don't get confused. And the family can pre-program a tablet and then send it to the home. They'll put their name on it, or the family can put the name on it. It goes into that isolation room for 5 days, and then it can come back out. We don't know how long this is going to go on for. Some families might think, well, it's a long time, but actually 5 days is going by pretty fast nowadays. So perhaps look into submitting a tablet. Perhaps look into bringing them some coloring books or some coloring crayons, things to be active with. There may be there's some other unique technologies out there that could connect better with a family member, like phones that automatically answer for conversations, to make the cell phone go to auto answer, so the person doesn't fiddle with buttons and how to turn things on. And then have them use that device. Maybe an old device is hanging around the house somewhere that didn't get traded up. Then maybe give that to the family member right now, but just ask perhaps the staff to help set it up with the Wi-Fi so that there can be some FaceTime going on. That might be one way to keep connected to a family member during this time if the staff don't have the availability to. But a lot of care homes are having the recreation staff, because they don't do group activities anymore. They are scheduling ahead of time with some of the families a Skype call or some kind of FaceTime call with their loved ones, so it may be 3 o'clock on Thursday kind of thing. So they're trying their best to go around room to room, but there's still not a lot of staff that might be able to do that, especially if their home is, 100 people or more.
Yeah. So that is something to keep in mind to family members listening, that the homes are going to be short-staffed because there's other things that they have to do. I'm sure. You get screened into the facility. You're screened into the home where they take they take your temperature and everything before you're allowed to enter, right?
Yes,
and that's another person that has to not do another job that they're supposed to do that as shift changes happen and everything, right?
Yes, and actually that's one of the roles that I'm doing by helping out in the home, is taking the temperatures of everyone and the residents, because that wasn't a position before. But some homes are getting creative. They're doing well. They were able to manage all this. Unfortunately, we know of the sad cases in other provinces where there wasn't enough staff, and which can bring a lot of fear right now and trust issues for current family members. Let's just say here in BC, for example, we haven't heard anything like this yet, but it's a real scare, and I can understand families are going to feel even more helpless if something like that happens. And there were actually some people stating perhaps we should have taken loved ones out of the care home before all this happened and bring them home to care for them. There's a lot of controversy around that issue.
That one I don't think we would be able to answer because of the amount of debate that I don't think we'd be able to answer that question in the time period we have today. That's for
no
sure.
Worries. But I just want to say to the listeners, every case is going to be different, and not to listen to what mainstream is, and really examine your own case. It's a personalized situation, and just to note, a lot of people that have dementia, when they're moved out of their familiar environment, they become more confused and more difficult to handle, and that might be something the families weren't expecting. So it could cause more problems for families that way, with wandering away and that sort of thing. So I encourage families to reach out for support. I know the Alzheimer's Society still has their 1-800 line, a helpline, available if they want to go to the Alzheimer's Society of BC's website. Again, my Facebook group is called Dementia Solutions Community for Families.
Okay.
So it's a private group, just Dementia Solutions Community for Families, and we're providing support there in the Zoom calls. Get as much support as you can. Reach out to your EAP if you have that, if you're still working and you have access to counselors. I highly recommend doing that now more than ever for everyone's mental health.
Yeah. Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome, Michael.
As usual, you're always that I would say, I'm not going to say the ray of hope. You're always seem to be like a steady stream of hope. You know?
Oh, well, thank you. I think when we're passionate about what we do, we are making the world a better place. And I think everyone has their strengths and their abilities, and we're all doing our best to help out during a difficult time like this, including yourself.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, you take care.
You too, and and to everybody listening, thank you for listening. And if you have someone in a home, or you know somebody that does have someone in a home, share this with them so that they know that the people inside are actually doing the best they can to take care of their loved ones. This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.